And yeah, then before we start, let me share with you. There's a link now in the chat for our WhatsApp group. It's also on the screen, so you can or join via the link or send me a WhatsApp on 08379088387, so that you can join the DSC1520 WhatsApp group. Okay, it might also be that Bronwyn from UNISA joins us during the session just to say more things about the Western Cape portal, and to get access to certain services. So when she joins, and if she joins, we will just hand over to her. But else, let us start. So normally what we will do is the session or the presentation is already in that folder at Western Cape, but afterwards I am going to share the presentation with you. We will share the recording with you, so later today on the WhatsApp group, all of those things will be shared. So please join the WhatsApp group. What later in the semester will happen as people share exam papers and things like that, we will share it across the board. So please join the WhatsApp group. Then the other thing is that let's just get all the admin stuff out of the way. 2 emails that you can use for me. The second email, if you want, after or later on during the semester, you feel that there's a certain topic that you need more guidance on, please send a email to me on that email, on the UNISA email, and we can then schedule like a one-on-one and just go through a topic if needed. So please do that. Then if you don't have access to the Western Cape portal, please send them an email to the ctntut@unisa.ac.za. They will sort you out that you can get access. You don't need to be from the Western Cape region. They will enable you to get access to that that portal with other information in there as well. So please, if you have any problems with with getting access to the Western Cape portal, please send a email to ctntut@unisa.ac.za. That is also then anybody that now needed to join as a guest or something like that. That will make it that you don't need to join as guest, and you get access to the chats. So when you leave the session, you will still be able to chat. So again, if you're a guest, you will probably not have access to the chat afterwards until you log in again. So please use the ctntut@unisa.ac.za. They are very good. So they've got a whole team looking at that website or that email address, and they're really good to respond. Okay, so then as we plan for this semester, what will be great if you can please on this chat or per email, or if you joining on WhatsApp, just to let me know around your schedule and more around when is your assignments due. Hopefully you still have a bit of a grace period that we're not asking it already this week. But please let me know when the assignments are due so so that we can also plan accordingly and this what topics you need to do. So if the first assignment is due next week, maybe what are the chapters that you need to cover in that. So please just if you can share that with me, it will be great. And then now we're gonna do these sessions. So each, if you can look at the schedule nearly each Saturday between 9 and 11, we'll look at a chapter if need be, and we need to quicken up because of your assignments. We'll do that. You will see here is a big bit of a gap, and that is because of all the public holidays nearly in March. So that nearly includes the public holiday on the Thursday. That makes that a long weekend nearly, and then the weekend afterward it's Easter, but we will then recover nearly after that and have enough sessions for you guys to cover everything and still to do exam prep. So don't worry about that. Then just also, if you can, since I haven't received anything from the lecturers yet, if you guys can send me, and again, doesn't matter which way, if you use one of the emails, if you send it via WhatsApp, if you send it on the WhatsApp group, just that first start letters, I think it's letter 101 and 102 or something like that, but just sets out how everything works, that we can just see how many assignments, how much of the assignments count, all those kind of things, that we can again just prep accordingly. Okay, so that is nearly the logistics behind everything. Again, it might be that Bronwyn joins us some time at the beginning. Then I will just hand over to her to explain some of the other UNISA details, else we just continue. Okay, the other thing that not in this week's session, but as we continue, I am gonna make use of calculators. I'm gonna make use of Excel as well. So again, that would be a nice thing to find out what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do in the exam, because sometimes there's really nice online tools as well, and one doesn't always have the money capability to buy the financial calculators. It is really expensive. So I would love to show you guys a lot of the things on Excel as well, because that is what everybody is nearly going to use in business. And if you have a laptop, you will have Excel on it. So I will share some tips in that you can use as well. Okay, so today's session, we're basically starting off with linear functions. We're only gonna focus on linear functions. Next week we'll get into nearly the use of some of the linear functions, and also then simultaneous functions and equations. So today we're only nearly looking at the theory of it, what is sitting behind it, and things like that. And then into next week, we will look at nearly the practice of it. So when we're looking at equilibrium, break even, the differences between those two. But today's we will focus on nearly looking at revenue, your cost function between revenue and cost. How do you get to profit? We look at demand and supply, and then we will also look at a few elasticities. So again, what I will do for you guys closer to the exam time is I will share a document that captures nearly the most important things that you need to have at hand. So we will supply that for you guys as well. Okay, so just let me quickly again share the link to the WhatsApp group on the chat, that you can click on the link to join the WhatsApp group. You can also send me a WhatsApp on 0837908387. What will happen is after the session, during the morning, I'm going to share the presentation on the WhatsApp group. How I normally do it, I will load the recording onto my channel on YouTube. What UNISA will do is they will also put the recording into the Western Cape portal, where there is less data charges if you go that route, but that normally takes a few days, where mine will be available early this afternoon. Okay, so let's look at chapter 2. What we nearly need to get out of chapter 2 is, in the end of a session, you need to nearly know what the concepts of revenue, cost, and profit is. They, again, you are writing a multiple choice exam. So in multiple choice, they're not going to ask you to explain something, but what they will do is they might ask you, which of the following is a definition of revenue, or they can tell you, revenue is this, cost is this, profit is this, which one is correct and incorrect. Okay, so nearly the way now they ask it is a bit different. So they can't ask you to explain something in any of your papers nearly, because it's multiple choice, but they can ask you nearly to say which one of these statements is incorrect, or which one of these statements is correct. So you will need to nearly know the concepts of revenue, cost, and profit. The same when we get to demand and supply. Nearly just, again, you will not need to plot anything, but you will need to nearly be able to draw it on the side to say what can happen. So again, a lot of the visuals that we used to do in previous times is not really applicable anymore, because everything is online. So they would rather, instead of you needing to draw a graph ever, they might give you 4 graphs and ask you which one of these graphs are the correct or the incorrect one. So again, nearly we need to just change the way in how we prep for this. And then the last part is the concept of price elasticity for demand and supply. Again, I will, and we'll share it afterwards in any case, this presentation, but when we get closer to the exam, I will clearly show on that formula page which one is which, because they will ask you a elasticity question in the exam even. So we'll get it in your assignment because assignment will cover a specific topic, but elasticity will be in the exam. So elasticity for this chapter, when we get to chapter 5 or 6, there is also elasticities for nonlinear functions. We will cover it there as well. And there will be a question in the exam around that as well. So certain of these things, as we go through it, I'll share some tips for prepping for the exam, but you will get definitely on elasticities, there will be a question in the exam. So let's first focus revenue, cost and profit. So again, some of the formulas that we need to know is that your total cost is nearly a function of your fixed cost plus variable cost. And if we have a graph, this bottom part is the fixed cost. So and think about that fixed cost nearly as something that you know on a monthly basis stays the same. So if you're renting, if you're paying a home loan, if there's a car payment going off, that nearly is things that you know is a fixed cost. If you run a business, you need to pay people a salary. The salary is then always a fixed cost. Then you come to the variable cost. And variable costs can be anything nearly associated with changes in paying systems nearly. So electricity, when we have electricity and you pay for it, month on month, it changes. So something like electricity will be a variable cost. If you're in a business and you need to look at variable cost, then again, something like electricity will be a variable cost. If you need to get some, if you have and an old example was always something like a telephone, because you don't know what your telephone expenses are. Nowadays, depending on what product you are from a cell phone company, if you have a contract with a cell phone company, you nearly have a fixed cost. If you or have bought the cell phone, that was a fixed cost. But if you are paying month to month on how you use data and how you use maybe something, that might be a variable cost. Okay, so just and what they will tell you in the assignments and in the exam, they're not gonna give you, here's a list of variables and you need to classify them or anything. They're not going to do that. They will just simply say to you, you've got a fixed cost of 5,000 Rand, and then you've got a variable cost of 20 Rand per item that you make. Okay, so they're not you don't need to know what is fixed cost and what is underlying the variable cost. You just need to know the principle behind it. So in the end, that variable cost will be calculated by a quantity versus a cost of a quantity. So they might say to you that you need to work out the quantity if the cost per item is 20 Rand or something like that. Or they might be lenient and they give you the fixed cost, they give you the quantity and the cost per item, but then you might need to work out revenue or something like that. Okay, so we will get to that component as well. So the easiest how to look at how a total cost function works. Total cost is that average variable cost. So if you look at that, your total cost is your total fixed cost plus that variable cost that is sitting on the other side. Okay, so that is your cost. Sometimes they give you a cost question on its own. Sometimes they will bring it in with revenue. So cost is what you nearly pay to get your product in the market, and then revenue is what will be the money that you make from creating that product and selling it. So the revenue is the money that you will make from selling that product. Revenue, the formula for revenue, again, the similarity between the Q in revenue and the Q in cost. So it will be the same. So just when they talk about it, they might mention the one, but you then need to use it in the other function as well. And then they will give you a price for it. So they might have said, you are creating, and let's say something like tables. You have a fixed cost of 1,000. Your variable cost is, let's say, 20 Rand per item. Your total revenue might be something like 50 Rand per item. Okay, so out of that, they might ask you to work out what is, and we'll get that to the next one, what is the profit or loss that you're making, at what number of products that you produce. But those two are the same. So you can't, in variable cost, have 50 products and then in total revenue have 60 products. So that can't happen. Okay, so there is alignment between the two Qs. The other important thing is that we need to remember that there's revenue does not equal to profit. Okay, so cost is what you need to nearly pay to get your product ready. Revenue is what you will get in, and then profit is the difference between the two. So just important that revenue does not equal profit. Okay, and the reason why I put that in here is there's a lot of times that you will get questions where they will say to you that work out the revenue or work out the profit. They love, and we will do that next week, where they love to give you examples of different formulas, where they might say, and they won't say the profit, they will call the one total revenue, and they will call the other one something like that. That is the profit sign sometimes that we use. So, but we will get to that next week, where we'll really look at the practical angles of some of these functions. So just important, revenue is not equal to profit. So when we talk revenue in the papers, it is the income that you have generated by selling your product. And the cost is, yes. So I will, let me see, Tandiswa, please join the WhatsApp group. You can, okay, so cool. So at least the emails went out. The SMSs went out. Please join the WhatsApp group. So everybody joining a bit late. Please join the WhatsApp group. You can do it with all the link or by sending me a WhatsApp on 0837908387. I will, this morning was a bit late that I shared it on the WhatsApp group, but I will share the sessions much quicker or much earlier on the WhatsApp group, so that you can get access to it. If you joined this session via WhatsApp group and you're logging in as a guest, please send to ctntut@unisa.ac.za. It's also now in the chat. Please send them a email and tell them they must give you access to the Western Cape portal, because on there are all the links also available for you to get into this session. So if you could not join via the SMS, or that was the only way, but you can't then get onto Teams onto your laptop or things like that, please send to ctntut@unisa.ac.za email, because they will be able to register you for the Western Cape portal. Then you can get a lot of other access to other things as well. Okay. So let's quickly, we've done cost, we've done revenue. Okay, so what I will do is I will, after today's session, it takes UNISA about 2 or 3 days. They will move the video to that portal. But what I will do is, within this morning, I will post both the recording and the presentation on, I will send you links on the WhatsApp group as well, so that you can get access to it earlier. But in about 2 to 3 days, those things will also be on the My UNISA, or under my modules, it will be part of the Western Cape portal. So yes, it will be there as well. But for the guys that don't have access to the portals and those kind of things, I will share the link to my YouTube channel in any case for you also to get access to. So that is nearly why important to join the WhatsApp group, because that is normally the easiest place for you guys to get access to everything. And there I will post all the recordings, all the presentations, when we do summaries, when we find nice material, those kind of things. I will put it on that group. So please join the WhatsApp group via the link, or by sending me a WhatsApp on 0837908387. Okay, but I will share all those details later again, so that everybody that has maybe joined a bit late can also see that information. Okay, so we've done revenue, we've done cost. Now we go into profit. So profit is nearly basically, you need to know what your total revenue is, so what you get in, and you subtract what you are spending. That is basically, in a nutshell, what profit is. If you want to bring it into your own context, nearly, do you have money left at the end of a month? I don't. So my revenue, so my money that I'm getting in is much less than the money I'm spending. So I'm making every month a loss. That's why one needs some credit. But as a company, if your revenue is bigger than your cost, you will make a profit. If your revenue is smaller than your cost, you will make a loss. And if your revenue is exactly the same as your cost, you will basically make no profit, but you will also make no loss. So again, I think the important thing is nearly to understand the difference between total revenue, total cost, and profit. Okay, so let's quickly look at an example. So I think this example is in the study guide in any case, but let's look at the example. So while you looking at it, I will just, again, I see a lot of people have now joined again. So let me just, while you're looking at the example, post the WhatsApp group information again, so that the guys that have joined now can also still please join the WhatsApp group via the link or via my SMS or my cell phone number. Okay, so again, when you do assignments, when you do exam, it's multiple choice, so they will need to tell you what you need to work out, and they will give you options. Yeah, I want us to work through it so that we can nearly get to everything, because with one question, they can ask you to work out total cost, they can ask you to work out total revenue, or they can ask you to work out profit. So within this one problem, they could have asked you to work out anything. What will also happen, and again, when you share that assignment due date and things like that, what will definitely happen is that, okay, cool, I've got the due dates and things like that, is that you will see nearly that they give all the information and you actually just need a bit of it. And that happens sometimes in more than these questions. It might come in related chapters as well. So the problem with that is that sometimes we use some of the other information incorrectly, because you nearly think, but they've given it to me, I must use it. So that's why nearly when you do these things, what I like to do is to directly say, okay, let's write down, and again, you're gonna be computer based, but please, when you do the assignments, have some paper and things with you, so that at least you can again write some of the things down. But so total cost, we know that it is fixed cost plus variable cost. Let's see what they give us. So a tuck shop has fixed cost of 600 Rand. They don't tell us what the variable cost is, but they tell us they sell pies at a fixed price of 25 Rand each. Okay, so the variable cost, nope. And see how quickly I could have made that mistake. So they sell it at 25 Rand each, while the production cost is 10 Rand per pie. Okay, so the variable cost is 10 Rand. Okay, so when was your first assignment due? Let me quickly just get a check-in on the chat before we go on here. When was your first assignment due already? And you can unmute and tell me. And when is your second assignment due? And the topics based on that. Or somebody can put it in the chat as well. So basically we're covering the first part of chapter 2. You're already 1 March. Okay, 1 March. Wasn't that even before registration closed? Okay, let me not say anything about that. Okay, 22 March. Okay, let's quickly check while we are now here. Just check on what. Okay, so we are basically today looking at that week 1 and 2. So we're looking at revenue cost. Let me see if I can quickly move this over to the screen. So hopefully you guys can still see this. Okay, so we are covering this and this topic today. Okay, so I see there, so assignment 2. Okay. So 22, okay, so we're way behind. Okay. So what we will do next week is we will cover everything that was actually due for assignment 1. Then I will make a plan that we still have time for the next one. Okay, so let's quickly see. So I might check if we not. So you guys said 22nd. Let me just check. 22nd is that Friday after the public holiday. Okay, I might. So we will definitely continue next week, Saturday. I'll push that we do more next week, Saturday, and it might be that we will create an extra session for you guys around. I'm just checking around the 19th, the 19th of March, so that we can look at more things. Okay, so thanks for that. Weird that the first assignment was due before even all registrations went through. Okay, but let's not let's not yeah, that's yeah, okay. So we will cover those first parts today, so that's why it might seem a bit old news, because you would have covered it already for your first assignment. And then next week, I'll definitely speed up, and then we'll build in an extra session for you guys before you need to hand in your second assignment. Okay, so that we just get some traction and work quicker through this. Okay, so again, if you then want to, we are only going to cover chapter 2 today. So if you feel you understand that and want to listen to the recording later, that's also fine. But yeah, we will speed up then for the next time and the next sessions. Okay, so total cost function we have, then total revenue. Remember, that's just Q times what the costing is. So we still don't know what Q is, but we know it is sold for 25 Rand. So your total revenue is 25 Q. So they say all pies will be sold. Okay, so now we will need to look at a profit function. So if we look at the profit function, all that we will need to do is to say, okay, well, profit, remember that is total revenue minus total cost. So we've got total revenue, that is 25Q. We've got total cost. Remember, important when you write this down, just remember the maths behind it, that it is minus and for brackets. Again, what might happen in your multiple choice is that they do this. So let's just get to the answer. It's 15Q, because 25 minus 10Q is 15Q minus 600. So it might be that in your multiple choice, you've got one answer as this. The other answer is maybe 25 plus 10, because one have forgotten to multiply it by the 10, by the minus. So the other option might have been 35Q minus 600. Another option that they could have given you is just to say the profit function is 25Q, and sometimes they even then throw in the total cost function, so that you see all these functions, you've been working with all of them, and then it sometimes just a simple mistake by clicking the wrong one because one have read it, the question wrong, you think you're right, but then you have lost 1 or 2 points. Okay, so just be careful when we do this. So what they then could say for this is, okay, so how many pies do you need to sell? So to just make no profit, so we know to make no profit, and they say all these pies will be sold. So if all the pies is sold, how many pies would have been sold? Okay, we got 40. So all the pies sold. Then if you look at how to calculate that, is we've got the total profit function. We then equal it to 0. The difference now here can be that they can say you have made a profit of 200. Then that function 15q minus 600 will be equal to 200. Okay, so if I tell you you've made a profit, the other thing that they can do is to say you have made a loss of 200. So then how that will work is you will then, your profit function will look, that part will look exactly the same, but instead of making a profit or no money, you will make a loss of 200 Rand. Okay, so just important, they didn't mention that we're making any profit or loss, so then we assume it is equal to 0 unless they tell us we're making a profit or we're making a loss. Okay, so that nearly is an easy way to explain how total cost, total revenue, and profit fits into one another. They can, out of one question, they can nearly cover any one of those three options. What they could also do and now that you guys have done assignment 1 already, they could have probably even had it that it's follow-up questions where they give you that and say, question 1, what's the total cost function? Question 2, what's the total revenue? And question 3, what is the profit function? Okay, so going into the next section around demand and supply. Remember, we're still working here with linear equations, linear functions. So linear functions always will be, when we look at demand and supply, will be straight lines. When we get to, I think, chapter 4, that is where it becomes nonlinear. We will then look at your parabola and those kind of things, but then it is cubic and square root kind, or not square root to the power of 2 formulas. So that is when it becomes nonlinear. So nonlinear is when we start looking at these kinds of um, diagrams and pictures. So currently we focus on linear, so straight lines for demand and supply. So let's get into a question on demand. Okay, so on demand, am I breaking up? Sorry, is is everybody getting that that there's some breaking in some of the speaking? I'm just seeing it on on WhatsApp. um, or is it fine? Okay, so it might be that in some areas it might be that the bandwidth is not great. Um, so sorry about that, Timbisa. Hopefully hopefully the recording is also better than if one listens to it later. Um, okay. Okay, so demand function. So when we look at demand, straight line, um, if and how you can look at demand is the higher the price, the lower the number of the quantity. So the easiest nearly always for me to remember this is much less people with a speedboat than with a bicycle. So cost of a speedboat is enormous. So the higher the price, the less a number of that being produced. The lower the price, the more of that product being produced. So demand nearly is looking at that. There is the demand function. Now again, there is different ways of writing that demand function. So it might be that some textbooks use this type of of equation. So let me quickly, sorry, not this type of equation that we have seen in nearly all of our math studies. The straight line is equal to, and then we will normally write it a bit differently. We will write it as mx plus c. So just to link it back to if you've done maths, so it's not a new concept. If you had maths, they just use it, the formula, a bit differently. So here you would have seen we have Q, we have price, so everything is in the same type of formula as a straight line. So again, I know they in the textbook, in the in the study guides, we do the economic way of looking at it, but if you nearly want to link it back to how you would have written it as a mathematical formula, because when we start looking at simultaneous equations and those kind of things, we most likely will write it in a mathematical way. Okay, so the demand function is given as that. Then we go into supply. So supply is just the other way. So the higher the price, the bigger the supply. Okay, so, and your formula is, if you look at the difference, QA minus B, because it is nearly, your slope is negative. In the supply, your slope is positive. So you will have a positive before the slope. So again, I think important things to take out of this is when you see a formula with a negative in front of the slope, you can nearly already say it's a demand function. If you have a positive in front of the slope, we know it is a supply function. Okay, and if you put the two together, as in this case, we will get the demand and supply function. Okay, then in the next chapter, we will start looking at what is happening at this, at that point, and you probably now have done it for the assignment. Let me quickly check, or we will then in any case prep you for the next assignment. Okay, so you would have done the break-even point and the equilibrium point already. So we will quickly go over that next week so that we just make sure that we cover it. Consumer surplus, all of that things that you actually needed to have done for the first assignment already. It really feels weird that the first assignment was due so quickly. Okay, so next week we'll quickly focus on those things, so that we can just get you guys in line with the second assignment that you will need to do. But I will create an extra chat or extra session for us. What was it? So please diarize it already. Nearly the 19th March, we will put in an extra session for you guys so that we can just finish before we get to your second assignment, that we have at least covered more of the chapters. Okay. Then the next two slides is all about elasticities. Again, to where I've started off this morning, they love to ask elasticity. So you will get it in assignments, you will get it in your exams. So they will ask you at least one price elasticity for your linear functions, and they will ask you at least one price elasticity for your nonlinear functions. So it will be in your exam paper. Okay, so that's why I've nearly tried to give as much examples of Nathan, that is maybe also, I'm unfortunately don't have any control of that, but maybe also I think because I do feel that is really unfair. Maybe if you guys have a email address of a lecture, but also maybe I'm just copying in CT and TAT as well. It might not be the right email address, but they might be able to steer you in the right direction where to nearly complain about this, because I know the the registration date was, I think the last one was actually then 2 or 4 March or something like that. So it feels a bit ridiculous that your assignment was due before even registration was done, which is a bit, yeah. So please send to the lecturer. If somebody can send me um that first start letter, maybe there's also an email address in there that one can use and just ask them. Um, okay, awesome. Yeah, so even if you can share that. Okay, I thought they would ask for some proof. So yes, please send that information, or if it's on the chat, or send it to me. I can share it with everyone, so that if you have read, and that now unfortunately, so if your registration was only done after the assignment was due, otherwise it will probably not not fly to ask them. Okay. Price elasticities, um, again, there are a few formulas that we can use. So depending on what information they give us, um, it is important then to nearly see which one is the easiest to use. You would see that all of these are actually the same if I now look at it. They just phrase it differently. Um, there's one that I will add extra so that you can see how to work out the change in Q and the change in P. That's actually the one that I wanted to include here. So I will just take that out. Will put in the one that. Okay, awesome. DSC1520 at unisa.ac.za. Thank you for that. Okay, so I will include another formula in here for you guys, that actually shows how to work out the difference in the change in Q over the change in P. I had it. It seems like I copied the wrong one in. So I will do that. And then we are going to do example after this on the arc. So there's an arc price elasticity of demand as well. So another one that I would just include here for you guys as well. So that is just making notes for myself to share that with you. Then what you will see sometimes is in the question, they might give you the number of the elasticity that was worked out, and linked to that, they will then say it is inelastic or it is elastic or things like that. How I normally like to look at this is on a number line, where I would have 1, I will have -1, and you can see if it's less than -1, it's inelastic. Um, Bigger than 1 is elastic. Sorry, smaller than 1. Now that so that's all inelastic. So bigger than 1, elastic, smaller than 1, inelastic. If you look at, if it becomes way big, it's perfect elastic. Yuck, that will never happen. Let's be honest, it will never happen. You will never get the elasticity of 0, and very seldom +1 or -1. So those things rarely happen, and will rarely happen in your papers as well. So you won't get weird elasticity answers to choose from. It will normally be anything between a -1, or let's say a -1.5 and a +1.5. Very seldom we get the massive elasticities of +20 or -20 or things like that. That just doesn't happen. Okay, so elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply, again. So if you look at your study guide, you will see that nearly 3 or 4 pages focuses on elasticity of demand. And then there's a small section on supply. Okay, so what sometimes they do to catch you out, or is that one focuses so much on the demand one that when they ask the supply question, which they rarely do, but they do. So I have seen in 1 or 2 exams that they do throw that in. Then suddenly one is, okay, but what now? So that's why I have included it as well. They don't really focus on it in the study guide. You guys can tell me how much of it was covered in assignment 1. Probably they've asked in assignment 1 elasticity of demand and not supply. So again, just be on the lookout for, and as we do the other chapters as well, I will mention these things that might be in your paper that sometimes is not covered even in the assignments. It is in the study guide, and it's very easily that one nearly browses over that part of it. Okay, so please, it is here. So whether elasticity of demand looked at the change in demand over the change in price. Here, the elasticity is again Q over P, but here it is all about the supply. So again, what they might do is give you all the information needed to work out demand, all the information needed to work out supply, and then ask the supply question. So just be really careful, and when we read the questions, just I'm always and some of my students from other subjects as well will know in the decision sciences and stats. Sometimes they want nearly to catch you out instead of just asking you to to tell or to answer questions. They love one or two questions that they want to catch you out. That's put in there deliberately to nearly test if you've done everything nearly. Um, so there might be again weird definitions that they might ask a definition question of somewhere of one of the study units that again one browsed over. Um, so again, I will share some of those insights as we go through all the study units. Okay, so I've added a few questions. I don't know why that one is blank, so let's just delete. Um, on how, and unfortunately, again, you now have done assignment one, but nearly on how questions might be phrased. Um, the only difference, and I'll add that later, is to show questions with the multiple choice options. So when we do the exam preps and all those kind of things, I will we all the questions will be like it will be in the exam. This is more so you will see the 4 questions that we will work through. There's no answers. This is nearly to get you to think how we will get to answers and how the processing works. So I'll give you nearly just jot down if you look at this on a piece of paper what you would do before we go through explaining how we will solve this. So jot down a few things and then we will get to it. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm just putting in again um, a few notes for the guys. I do see that the WhatsApp group is nicely growing. Um, if you don't have if you haven't joined for WhatsApp group yet, please join on that link or on my WhatsApp number. So send me a WhatsApp on 0837908387. And just a recap, what we will do is the presentation will be shared later this morning when I made sure that everybody is connected on the group. I'll share the presentation. I will share the recording as well. So after the session, I will download it. I will put it onto my channel on YouTube. On that channel, you will also see previous work. So there's really a lot of previous sessions and material that you can also look at if you want to pre-prep nearly for certain things. Um, the problem I now see that happened this year again, that nearly happens every year, is the first assignment is so quick that we nearly play catch up the whole time. So that is why I nearly will add an extra session in that we try to catch up with when your assignments are due. Okay, so let's look at this question. So they talk about suppose the cost of manufacturing 10 units of a product is 40 Rand and the cost of manufacturing 20 units is 70 Rand. If a cost C is linearly related to the output, the cost of producing 35 items is. Okay, so we actually haven't done this in this study unit. We will cover it next week. But basically, you would have had this already in assignment 1. So basically, they giving us, and again, I love things to be visually so that I can make sense out of it. So they've told us, suppose the cost of manufacturing 10 units, and let's see, when we look at that, always quantity on the x-axis, price on the y-axis. So they told us, suppose the cost of manufacturing 10 units of a product is 40 Rand. So there's that point. And for cost of manufacturing 20 is 70. What is the cost of producing 35 items? Okay, so then they tell us manufacturing because linearly related. So we know that is a straight line. So I have now learned I can't draw a straight line at all. So let me use this function. So those two, that will be a straight line. So if you had like a piece of paper and you've now drawn this in like 10 is equal to 1 centimeter, you will probably able to get to what that value is. Okay, and we can nearly guesstimate that it will probably be, if we say 10 is that, 20 is that, it will probably be something between 100 and 120. Okay, so that is what I nearly would have guessed. So again, when it comes to exam time, if any of your options is less than 70, you will eliminate them because it needs to be more than 70. Okay, so if anything is, and even if you just double up on it and say 20 is 70, because you can see this doubles, but that doesn't double. So if you double it up to 40, double that up to 40. So again, it should be less than 140. So that's just nearly things that one can pick up out of the information. So again, it's more for you guys to guide you guys to say, okay, if there was 4 or 5 options, the options must be at least bigger than 120, bigger than 70. So if I get an answer less than 70, it is wrong. If I get an answer above 140, it's probably also wrong. Okay, but what we will need to work out is we will need to work out what is the slope, and then we will use that slope in our formula, and we will put in the 35 as your Q so that we can work out price. Okay, so let's quickly write down So what we will work out first is that m, the slope. Okay, so how we do that is to get what is the difference between those 2 points. We haven't done it in this session, so that's why we can, I'll show you quickly. So we will see what's the difference in one point minus the other point, divided the difference between. Okay, so what's the difference in the cost? So if we look at that point, the cost is 70. What I'm going to do is for the quantity also. So the quantity is 20, so that we at least work with the same. If I look at then the second point, cost is 40, and the quantity is 10. So out of that, we will have 30 over 10, which is free. So if we then needed to complete the formula, we would have had free Q plus B. Okay, so then what one can do is we now need to solve the B. We can do that by 2 ways. We know 2 of the numbers. So we know that for one set is 10 and 40. And we know the second set is 20 and 70. Okay, so we still need to calculate the B. If we now already put in 35 in Q, we would have had that as the C is unknown and the B is still unknown. Okay, so we first need to find out where this line is actually crossing this intersection. So that is what we still need to find out. We don't know yet what that point is. Again, we can guess it's 20 or something like that. Purely a guess, probably wrong. But we need to work out that B first. The easiest to work out that B, because we know it's a straight line, we can use any of those 2 points. So when we put in, let's use that point, we can say 3 times 10 plus B, and we know that the value of C is 40. So 40 is equal to 30 plus B. So then if we take that 30 over to the left-hand side, we get from that formula that B is equal to 10. Okay, so at least now we're making progress. So our new formula that we then have is C is equal to 3Q plus 10. Okay, so now at least we're getting to the point that we only need to replace one number. They told us Q is 35. So we will need to work out the cost with Q at 35. So 3 times 35 is equal to 105 plus 10 is 115. Okay, so at 0.35, the cost will be 115. Okay, so it was inside my guesstimate. Here, my guesstimate of 20 was way off half of it. So again, if you draw this on scale, then you will probably get very close to. So if you said that's 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3.5 centimeter, but then when we go up, that also needs to be on scale, you will probably get very similar to the answer. But the mathematics behind it. So we didn't cover it in chapter 2. We will cover it next week in any case in chapter 3, because it's part of nearly the practical side of it, but you would have needed it already in assignment 1 in any case. Okay, so what I think is important out of chapter 2 is, and we'll see it again in the next question, is they talk a lot of things of cost and demand in questions, but it's nearly by using the theory of that and then using chapter 3 as the focus of a lot of the things. So for me, out of this chapter that we're doing today, the definitions are critical, because, and I don't know, and you guys can tell me, was there any definition questions in assignment 1? Did they nearly ask or tell you certain things and you needed to pick like a definition, or was it all just things that you needed to calculate the answer? Because it feels to me, with what they covered, that there was probably definition questions in as well. So this chapter, probably a lot of definition to get: total revenue, total cost, profit. They might have already in your assignments have used the linear equations or simultaneous equations, where they've also used, okay, no definitions. That's quite interesting. So I will look for previous exam papers for you guys to just get some of the definition questions as well. Yes, it is online, so it is normally less, but what they do like is 1 or 2 definition questions. So I will check for that for you guys, and when we get closer to the exam, add some of those to the things that we will work through. Okay, very similar to the previous question, nearly, is find the equation of a line passing through the points. So look at this one and look at the second one. We're going to do exactly the same. So the one they phrased it as a problem for you in nearly the demand, supply. So they can do that in a word sum like this, or they could purely ask you the same question that says, find the equation of a line passing through these points. Okay, so we're going to follow exactly the same principle. So that's a bit scary in a sense, that, and that is sometimes why I say sometimes they make it seem very difficult, because if I get a question where I get all of this information versus a question where I only get this information, I would have, for this question, I would, okay, cool. This is really not too bad. First one, I need to nearly think a bit harder. So again, just see that they can ask questions very differently. So find the equation of the line passing through the points. So again, sorry, here we will now assume it's x and y. We can use the other ones as well. I like to use the x and y because that makes me much more comfortable. So x is 3, y is 1, so there's 1 point. X is 4. Oh, sorry, that should be 4/3, so it didn't come out very nicely in the presentation. So let's say that is 4/3, and the value is 2. Okay, so automatically we now see that we're actually dealing here with a demand. Here we actually worked with a supply function. So again, supply function that was positive. So you would also have seen we're working with a positive. Here we're working with a demand function. So indication then is the slope will be negative. Okay, so, and those nearly also the things that I think I want to let you nearly pick up is those things that will be also important when we go and do the assignments and we do the exams as well. Okay, so slope, because it is demand function, slope to the negative side. So when we work out the slope, if you don't get a negative number, you might have made a mistake with how you've written the point. So let's, the first point, 3 and 1. So y at the top, x at the bottom, minus 2, and at the bottom, minus 4/3. So at the top, we have minus 1. At the bottom, okay, now I need to do this 3 minus 4/3. Okay, so we can keep it as that, or we can change it. So let's do that. It will be 5/3. But because it divides, so here now some of the maths again comes in, and what study unit would that have been? So not in this, but in other decision sciences and maths. So -1 divided by that, what we can do is change it over. So -1 divided by 5/3. If we'll swap it around, it becomes, sorry, there's just something that went wrong on this side. I hope you guys can still see the So when we swap it around, it becomes 3/5. Okay, so that is our m. So you can see the slope is negative. Cool, that's sorted. So if we now look at the original formula of y mx plus c, again, we've sorted that out. So now we sit with y is equal to minus 3/5x plus c. So the same as the previous question, we don't know what c is. They haven't given it to us. So we can use any of those two points, substitute it in the formula so that we can get to c. Okay, so I don't want to work with more fractions, so I will put in the 3 and 1, even though we are going to work with a fraction, but then at least it is one fraction, not two. So substitute the x into x and substitute the 1 into y. So now we sit with 1 is equal to minus 9/5 plus c. To get rid of a minus 9 plus 5, we'll move it to the other side. So that becomes c is equal to, and I'm now just going to do this first, 14/5, which is then what, 2 and 4/5. Okay, so the 14, how I got there is I just said 5 times 1 is 5, 5 plus the 9 is 14. So again, making the improper functions, I can't nearly do it the other way around. So you can check that when we've got C, again, I haven't shown any final answer. So let, again, the answer sheet guide you, because this answer could have now been y is equal to minus 3/5x plus 14/5, or it could have been plus 2 and 4/5. So depending on what is in your final answers, look for those two then. Both won't be in your final set. So they're not going to give you the one and the other one and said no, but you now needed to make it to the simplest form or something like that. That we're not going to do. It will be either the one or the other one. They will not give you both and then expect you now suddenly to pick this one because that is the simplest form in true definition or something like that. That will not happen. But again, it might be that we now worked it out this answer, but they're actually reflecting the other one. So just be careful and just see that whichever one is when in your answer set, you go for that. Okay, so exactly the same method that we used, totally two different types of questions. When you look at it from the start, nearly, it looked like two different questions that one needed to deal with. Okay, so, and that you will see in your assignments and in your exams as well. Okay, question 3 that we gonna work through. elasticity. So, like I said, they love to ask elasticities. Um, there will be at least one in your exam. I think there will probably be two, because for nonlinear, there will always also be elasticities. The same for, you would have now done it already in assignment 1. We will cover it next week. Consumer surplus, producer surplus, that is a given that it will be in your exam. And again, most likely there will be 2 or 3 questions around it, because there will be one for linear and there will be one for nonlinear. Okay, so those are nearly 4 or 5 questions that you will get in the exam. Okay, so that is a given. Okay, so let's look at, if a demand function is given as P equals to 70 minus 0.5 Q, where P and Q are the price and quantity. This I don't really need to add, because we nearly need to know already that P and Q is price and quantity. So a luxury if that they add the price and quantity within the question, else we must actually know that it is price and quantity. Determine the expression for the price elasticity of demand in terms of P. Okay, so this tells me that we're not going to have a lovely elasticity of demand is equal to 0.4 or something like that, because it is going to be in terms of P. So P is going to be somewhere in that equation. Okay, so whenever they say that, see, in this one, the next one, they don't say in terms of P. I think it's exactly the same equation. So not in terms of P. So here we will be able to work out something. Okay, so for now, in terms of P, what is it that we're looking for? So let's just rewrite this a bit in something that we also know how to use in the formulas. Okay, so I just went back to first principle first to rewrite it to something that we know. So we know that this is normally the function. So let's see things that we can pick up. A is 70. And let me just do this over. So we see that A is 70 and B is equal to 0.5. So we just need to make sure when we do this that we look at that B, and make sure that we remember the negative. But let's first see if we need that for this exercise. Okay, so when we look at the formula for elasticity, we normally would look at P over P minus A. Hopefully one of them was that. So what we will end up here is, so they want it in terms of P. So we're not going to put this formula in there. We keep P there because we want it in terms of P. So the only thing that will change is that we're going to replace the A by the 70. Okay, so please don't go and, because P is equal to 70 minus, go and say 70 minus 0.5 Q, and at the bottom the same. They have asked you to write it in terms of P. So then you need to have P within your answer set. Okay, so that is one thing very important. I think sometimes we also overthink certain things. So very easily we could have now substituted that P in there, that P in there, and suddenly you get something way different. And the problem again, and again, students that would have done 1650, QMI, BNU, stats, or anything like that, you would know that, again, from the decision sciences side, if you have put that into P, there will probably be an answer for you in that answer set as well. So on this one, just be, we only want to put it in terms of P, so that is where we will end. Okay, so then the next one goes into determine the function of a commodity. That function P, exactly the same, 70 minus 0.5 Q. Determine the ARC price. Okay, so we haven't looked at ARC price in the previous. I should add that to the formulas, but let me write down what is the formula if we would do the ARC price, so that you, in any case, have it. Okay, so a bit different. Again, why I included it here, it would be interesting if there was anything of ARC price elasticity in your assignment, but again, it is nearly like one, but if you go back to your chapter 2, ARC price of elasticity is like 2 or 3 lines in your study guide. They don't really ask you in the extra activities anything about ARC price. So when one prep, you don't really look at it because there was not a lot of focus on it. You guys can tell me if you can remember if there was anything of ARC price in assignment 1, and then suddenly you get this in the exam and it's like, oh shucks, but did we even do this? Okay, so let's look at how we need to do this. So they tell us we've got 2 prices. So for those 2 prices, we will need to first work out the quantity. They didn't tell us the quantity. So for the 7 rand, we will need to work out a quantity. For the 5 rand, we will need to work out a quantity. Okay, so that is the first things we will need to work out. Else we will not be able to complete it because we need Q1 and Q2. Okay, so we go to the regional. We know that for price 7 is equal to 70 minus 0.5 Q. So 70 will go over to that side, so it will be minus 63 equal to minus 0.5 Q. So Q will end up to being 126. Okay, so that is, so whenever we have, so let's put nearly that already in here. So for the first price of R7, we had the quantity of 126. Okay, so that we already nearly see how we match it up. For the R5, we do exactly the same. So 5 is equal to 70 minus 0.5 Q. Take the 70 over, so that becomes 65 is equal to, okay, sorry, minus 65 equal to minus 0.5 Q. So if we work out what Q is, that will be equal to 150. So where the price was 5, the quantity was 150. Okay, so that component we've done. In the previous one, we actually saw what B was. So okay, and now we can solve that equation. So let's 7 plus 5 is 12. 126 plus 150 is 256. Oh, let's just get this right. So 12 divided by 256 is 0.046888. I don't always know where to stop with the commas, and again, let for answers, so if the answer set is out of 3 or 4 commas or decimals, let that nearly guide you in how you set up your calculator. Okay, so that answer then is minus 0.09375. Okay, so again, you would have gotten a few options. What they can add to that, and here they set, is it elastic or not? We go back to this point. Smaller than 1 is inelastic, so it will be inelastic. So they might, again, and that there would have been maybe in assignment 1 already things like that, where they've given you that you need to work out the elasticity, and then they could have said, okay, one of the options is minus 0.09375. It's elastic. One of the other options is minus 0.09375 inelastic. Okay, so again, that might be that they give the same answer to the elasticity that was worked out, but the way of being elastic or not might be the second part of it that you need to make a choice. Okay, so that is the session today. So we've nearly done a bit of chapter 3 in here. We've done a bit of chapter 2 with price elasticity. We've done something that probably will not feature in your assignments, but would most likely be in the exam. So check out for arc price elasticity, just that for if for any reason it is being in your exam, that you know how to do it. Yes, there is a question about assignment 1 questions. Please share. Okay, if you have assignment 1 and you have questions around assignment 1 already, it was handed, it was submitted. So nothing prohibits us from using some of those in the prep for assignment 2 as well. So please, please give me, you can even send it on the group. You're not allowed to send questions on assignment 2. So if you now work through assignment 2, you're not allowed to then post that until it is the closing date. But nothing is against it to send on the group, or if you don't want to post it on a group, you want to send it directly to me, no problem in sending any assignment questions, because it was already due, that we look at it, because again, I want to prep you for assignment 2. Assignment 2 might even have some of the previous questions. I don't know if they, in assignment 2, only then focuses on differentiation and application of that. It might be, but again, we can use assignment 1 later for exam prep as well. But since we still need to go through linear programming, break even, equilibrium, any of those questions that was in assignment 2, you can just send to me and I will put it even into our discussion next week, so that we can do that. Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for joining. I will put, yes, there's a question, so please go ahead. I just stop recording.